We're back here at the McCall Research Station with our OSU entomologist, Dr. Kris Giles. And Kris, so what are you talking about at the field day today?
I'm talking about mites in corn, and that's been a perennial issue, and on a regular basis producers are having to deal with that and make application of pesticides to protect their corn. But this year the numbers are a lot less, and so we're able to monitor before making decisions.
So why are numbers less than they would usually be?
I think the rainfall. There's been a little bit more rainfall recently, a little bit more moisture, even though that's going to disappear, so they're going to have to look out for it. So a slower developing population of mites, but they're starting to move in, they're starting to increase, and so people are really going to have to pay attention to this.
Yeah, and here you just spoke a little bit earlier, and you were definitely one of the most popular speakers. It sounded like you had a lot of questions, thrown your way. So what were some questions that you were, receiving?
I think the questions are what pesticides to use, and we can look at OSU Extension fact sheets for that information, but also when to treat to prevent these mites from getting into the ears, because that's really the most critical part. They can be on the lower plants, they can be on the leaves, not causing much damage. When they get in the ears, that's a real issue. So preventing that is the key. And some of the producers, we had a nice discussion about how we would prevent that and making sure that doesn't happen.
So what are some tips that you're giving?
Oh, the tips are really monitoring the populations early on, but also really paying attention to the natural enemies, some of the predators that eat these mites. There's other mites, there's lady beetles, there's lacewings, a whole suite of natural enemies that do a great job of keeping populations low. And these producers were talking to each other about monitoring both and making sure that we're keeping track, because we want to preserve those natural enemies for the rest of the pests that are out there.
Yeah, because sometimes you might look out there and you might see a ladybug and think, that might be an issue actually, but in reality it's actually trying to keep those mites down.
Yeah, and they do a nice job if their numbers are high enough. But at some point in time when it becomes too hot and too dry and those natural enemies are not out there, the mites really have to be taken care of.
So in a place like out here in the Panhandle, what are some different types of, insect pressure that you might see out here, comparatively to like what you might see like in central Oklahoma?
Yeah, so I think mites in corn would be a big issue, but also the sorghum aphid is just starting to build up a little bit in this part of the country. On late planted sorghum, still vulnerable, we're seeing those sorghum aphids just starting. But again, the same natural enemies that attack mites attack those. We're trying to pay attention to both and make decisions about that.
All righty, thanks, Kris. Dr. Kris Giles, OSU entomologist here at Oklahoma State University.